folks, I'm going to go ahead and try and show you a little bit of some of my homemade spaghetti. I'm going to get started with the spicing up the ground beef before I start getting ready to cook everything. Just putting some Italian seasoning in here, getting it all ready to go and get it mixed up into the ground beef. I'll add this later as I cook as well, after I add all the extra sauces and stuff. Go ahead and put on a glove here so I can go ahead and get my hands into the ground beef and not getting stuck all over the place. Go ahead and let some of the juices of the ground beef get the Italian seasoning moistened up a little bit. Add a little bit of kosher salt, just a couple of shakes in. Add some pepper. I'll add more as it's cooking, but for now I'll just go ahead and get started on that to soak things in a little bit. Okay, go ahead and get that off to the side, so just wait to melt a little bit before I get ready to cook everything. Okay, go ahead and start chopping up some onions. I already had a little bit of another meal left over, so I'll go ahead and peel off some of the dry stuff that's on the outside. There's a little piece on the edge there, no problem, just throw that out. Go ahead and dice them. So on the root end, make sure you keep the root intact a little bit so you have a little bit easier way to dice it. If you do it at an angle towards the middle, it makes the secondary cut pretty much not needed. Just cut down, get your little bitty slice pieces like that. It makes a nice little dice. And you can even dice up the little extra pieces there. Be able to use all of it. Double check, make sure it doesn't have anything, have that middle root piece left. There's that one. Scoop that into a bowl. While I cut up a second one. And yes, I did wash my hands before I started all of this. Okay, once again, here's the root end. I've already chopped off the end piece. Got the outside of it off. Root end. Slice it lengthwise. And the same technique for this piece. Angle down towards the center. Make sure it goes all the way through, but don't completely cut off the root. Or cut through to the root. You give yourself something to hang on to. Mostly. It's a little slippery towards the end sometimes, but that's no big deal. And again, just kind of cut around that root piece. Oops, wrong direction. And again, cut around. Slice off, that's pretty good. Like our onions and garlic, so we use it a lot. Stack that into the bowl to add later. Okay, now to add the fresh garlic. I've already peeled fresh garlic clove. It's a little over half a clove. Pretty good size. Pretty much just do a couple of rough cuts before I do the mincing part of it. You can do it pretty much any way you want. You can cut it in down lengthwise, or you can cut it across. We're just doing a quick mince, so the bigger chunks are okay. peel it off the back side of the knife. So I can just go in and just do some quick chops. Cut the pieces that decide to fly somewhere else. It's a nice chunky garlic going on here. We're good. Trying to get some of the bigger pieces a little bit smaller, but you have a big chunk of garlic, no problem. It's a spaghetti sauce. I like to put it in a separate cup so it's easier, and I can use other surface or continue cutting other items on the cutting board. I'm going to add some fresh mushrooms as well, so I want to get the bulk of the garlic out. The garlic juice is okay since it's all going into the sauce anyway. If it gets out of the mushrooms, no big deal. Got some good fresh mushrooms from the store. This happens to be a 16-ounce container, but I usually use about half of it for my spaghetti sauce. Pull a few of them out. Get the rest of this back in the fridge. Got one of those disposable trays from some of the instant soup type things. It works great. It's a little styrofoam cup. So we'll put the majority of the mushrooms in while I start working on the slicing them up, since these guys happen to be huge. Again, this is pretty much just going to be a rough cut. Just make them a little bit more bite size, but not too bad. Have mushrooms the size of Texas. These are huge. Okay, pull the rest out of the ones that I stuck in the bin over here so I can make some more room on the board. Pretty rough chop, as you can tell. Just to make them a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to eat. Okay, put that aside. Get the rest of those in the extra bucket there. Go ahead and get these all prepped the rest of the way. I've got all my spices here. I've got a little bit of seasoned salt, some paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, tomato paste, Cajun spice to add a little heat, garlic salt. Since I don't really do a whole lot of extra salt adding other than what you saw me add to the prep of the hamburger, I just use a little bit of the garlic salt to help add some flavor. Also have prepackaged either ragu, progresso, whatever whatever the other flavors are, whatever canned or jarred version of spaghetti sauce. I basically use it as a starter and obviously add a whole bunch of spices to it. Got the onion powder, got some stewed tomatoes that have some Italian herbs already in them, and then some regular petite diced tomatoes to add it, make it extra saucy. Anyway, let's see what we got here. We're going to add get my cans ready to go. So all I have to do is just pour them in once I'm ready to go. Go ahead and wipe off the top there in case there's anything on top of it before I use the can opener. It can be any brand, any canned version of these that you like. You can use just regular plain. You can even use the Rotel or store versions of Rotel to give extra spice if you're not comfortable with adding Cajun spice to things. They do add a little extra heat with the Rotel flavoring or that kind of system, but a little extra heat sometimes is a little good in a sauce. I'll probably end up adding a little bit of either regular sugar or brown sugar, depending on how the sauce cooks. If it's got a little bit too much of a canned flavor to it because of the canned tomatoes, or it just doesn't quite seem sweet enough because when you add the tomato paste, it can sometimes make it pretty bitter. So depending on how it cooks down, and I usually do that towards the end of the hour, hour and a half worth of simmer time that I do to my sauces, just in case. And I kind of taste it as I go, just to make sure it's progressing nicely in the flavor mixing. These little cans sometimes are hard to get these can openers onto, but they get there. Alrighty, okay, those are all ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and edit right here and turn you around and get you ready to go into the cook pot. Okay, I didn't actually turn you around. That didn't quite work, but that's okay. I wanted to be able to see my shot, because I couldn't do that with you actually turned around, because where the wall is, I could have left you the same spot, but went ahead and turned it back, moved everything out of the way a little bit, so I can go ahead and get this ready to go. Go ahead and get my cooktop, my big burner. I'm going to go ahead and set it on high for a couple seconds here, let it start to heat. Go ahead and get out one more item I forgot, which was a little bit of beef soup-based flavoring. Okay, we have a little bit of heat coming up. I did just add a little bit of olive oil, even though I'm still going to have to drain the hamburger when I get it finished. I've been known to add hamburger, do this with hamburger just by itself. And the spices, I've added a little swirl in the pan. I've added pork sausage, I've added country sausage, I've added Italian sausage. Kind of do a little bit of everything to it. It kind of depends on what you have on hand. Go ahead and get the hamburger started. I do have my heat on high, but I'll probably turn it down here in just a few seconds. As it starts to do some sizzling, I'm going to go ahead and get some of that hamburger with the olive oil before it starts to render out the fat that's naturally in the hamburger. I'm pretty sure this was a 80-20 mix. We just recently started going to the 85-15 to try and keep some of the extra down, but since meats have gotten so expensive, kind of do what you got to do. And let that sit for a little bit. I've got a splatter guards. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put you on pause here while that cooks, and I'll be right back before I add the next stuff. Okay, it's starting to cook down a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of what's called a zesty garlic, which is actually from Garlic Gourmet. It's a company that you can pretty much find at any of the local fairs and venues. I think they actually have stuff all over, but it's a mix of a couple different good things. I'll go ahead and post a picture and put a link on the bottom to their location. It is something you can technically make yourself, but it's easier when it's already mixed for you and you don't have to put all the ingredients together that it has. And they're really good. It's a really good combination. And you can buy it in refill bags. Buy the initial to get your initial container for them, and then refill it. We go through a lot of it, so. Alright, it looks like it's cooking down pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and, it still has a little bit of pink in it, but I'm going to go ahead and add, clear out a little bit, add my garlic. It's literally been about 5 minutes, about 4 minutes into the cook. Put that to the side, go ahead and let that fragrance a little bit, put in some of the oil. Let that garlic get a little bit fragrant so I can actually smell it. There we go, it smells of it. I'll go ahead and put in onions. And then we'll have the fun stuff of watching the tag team of us trying to get the grease out of the bottom of the pan. Although this actually looks like it's doing pretty good. It's not leaving a whole lot of grease, so it may only be a one paper towel job. Okay, go ahead and put the splatter guard back on. And our big steamer lid, and let that steam for a few minutes. And we'll get right back to you. Okay, we've got that cooked down pretty good for the first initial part of it. Now we're going to have our tag team of the getting any of the grease out of the container. Just go ahead and tip it forward a little bit. I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Quite like how to have it about medium high. Go ahead and tip up. Yeah, not too much. These are actually doing pretty good. Pull it up. Go ahead and top out that in. Paper towel piece. Put some more slide on top of it. Go ahead and put the second one on top of it. This is one of those half paper towels, the select a size style. And we grab the handy dandy tongs to get everything out of there. And so we don't burn ourselves. Or so Karen doesn't burn herself. Tip it over and then grab the top part. Tip it. There we go. There we go. Okay, got that all nice and clean. Then it goes into our grease bucket. Thank you very much to my beautiful assistant. Okay. Now the fun part, adding all the sauces. Generally don't drain these because I let it cook down, because I do, as I said, I cook it for approximately an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes I chop up these kind of tomatoes. Sometimes I go and squish them with the fingers. Just kind of depends on the mood I'm in. If I feel like mashing something. Usually I just stick the spoon in it and cut it up that way. Okay, go ahead and get the diced tomato sections that has the extra, give us some extra tomato goodness. Let that start to simmer down a little bit before I add in the paste and the actual pre-made spaghetti sauce. Technically, you can just add a regular tomato sauce to this, as well as the tomato paste and a little bit of the beef soup base. You can either add chicken noodle or chicken stock, beef stock, and just let it cook down yourself. You don't have to eat a lot of beef stock. It's like, you know, less than a cup, like a quarter cup even, just to add some extra flavoring to the beef. Making your own sauce, but I kind of like to have the store-bought sauce to give me a good base, so I don't have quite as many extra ingredients. Grab myself a secondary spoon. Just mushrooms on my fingers. This is where the bitter comes in. Generally, tomato paste is usually rather bitter because it's so concentrated. To my taste buds. So this is where usually that extra, adding that extra sugar or brown sugar, or in some cases honey, or whatever sugar, sweet base you want to add. You can do agave. Just got to be careful with that one because it's a little sweeter than most. Some honeys are a little sweeter than most. So I usually do a brown sugar because it adds a little bit of a smoky flavor to it. Instead of it being just pure sweet add. Just clean off the spoon. I will show you another technique that I use here in a minute. Get that to mix in. A little bit, but turn my heat up a little bit more. Turn it down a little bit too low for us to do the degreasing portion of it. Okay, now is when I add my main spicing. good half a teaspoon of Cajun spice, even though I added the fresh garlic. Add some garlic powder. Add some onion powder. Even though I have the fresh in there, this just boosts up some flavors. Paprika, I just kind of shake a little bit in. Kind of depends. And then I've got maybe a teaspoon, a little bit less. It can be 1 bouillon cube if you want to do it that way. It's just to add a little bit of extra. So I can operate the lid. Okay, here's a little bit more of the garlic salt. I haven't added yet. Just do a couple of shakes in. I'll wait on the seasoning salt till the end. One of my little tricks is to go ahead and add some regular water, just fresh tap water, into the various cans. So you can get as much of the stuff out of them. And then just do the old pour technique where you pour one into another. Go ahead and mix up some of my spices while we're getting going here. You can tell it's basically a sauce right now, even without adding the store-bought sauce. So just to make it a little bit more saucy, I guess is the word for it. Go ahead and add in the pre-made. And as I'm working on getting the other containers clear, go ahead and put the lid back on momentarily. Go ahead and fill this up about a quarter to a half. Swish it around. The one I already had poured some of the other sauce in here into this can. Go ahead and pour it in this. Get some of the juices out. See what I can do with that one. Stir it up. Juices out of there. Okay. Done. Go back and forth a couple times. Go ahead and pour the rest of this in. Go ahead and do some stirring here. Make sure you get everything mixed in a little bit. And then I'll taste and see if I need to add anything at this point in the game. And nope, it actually looks pretty good. And I probably will not need to add any sugar to it. It does actually make a pretty good sweet. So we'll go ahead and turn you off. Put this on simmer for the next hour or so. I'll stir in between. I'll probably stir every 15 or 20 minutes just to make sure that it's doing okay. And I'll be back when I get ready to do the rest of it. Show you the finish. Okay, as the rest of the spaghetti sauce is finishing up on its job here, it's been cooking about 5 minutes. Probably have about another 10 to 15 minutes left on it. I'm going to go ahead and get the water started for the pasta, for the spaghetti pasta. I've added about, I'm guessing 3 cups or so of water to the big stock pot that I have here. You can do it however you want to do your noodles. You can do spaghetti noodles, you can do edible macaroni, anything you have available or on hand. You go ahead and add that. But I've already added about a tablespoon of salt to the water. And I'll go ahead and just let it boil get ready. I went ahead and put it on high because it's a glass container. It does really good at making it. I can put it on the high. I do have a double burner size. As you can tell, the high is just heating the middle burner at the moment. Go ahead and change the element size to the big one, and you'll notice it'll start to heat up. Anyway, I'll get back to you when I get the pasta in. When it gets to a good roll and boil before I add the pasta. See you in a bit. Okay, as you can see, we have the water boiling away right now. So we'll go ahead and turn down the heat just a little bit. I had it at a good heavy rolling boil. Go ahead and turn down the temperature down to exactly medium. Set that off to the side on my lid. And we'll go ahead and get ready to add the noodles to it. Now after we get the noodles added, I'll go ahead and give another quick stir to my spaghetti sauce itself. There's about half a bag of the 16-ounce spaghetti noodle to this. And you don't have to break them in half, but it makes it a little bit more easy to eat. You don't have to do quite the wrap and roll technique. Go ahead and break those in half approximately, and do a slow drop into the boil so they don't stick together quite as much. Do a half drop in, do a little quick stir to get all of them incorporated into the water, into the boil. If you notice, as soon as I added the noodles, the roll on the boil stopped. I have turned down the heat, as I said, to half, to medium, but it just adding the noodles because it's cold reduces that boil. And then go ahead and add the other half, slow drops in. This doesn't always work to keep them from sticking together, but it does help a little bit. Having the noodles stick together is always a pain, and unfortunately any noodle will stick together because of the starches that's in it. Go ahead and stir that up a little bit, let it get to a boil, and then do probably one more stir, and then go ahead and start my timer for about 8 minutes. I usually try and do as close to al dente as I can, but as depending on the spaghetti that you get, how old it is, how long it's been drying, etc., it may take longer or it may take shorter. That's why you always have to test it. Okay, well that's boiling, and I do leave it uncovered for usually 90% of the time. Every once in a while I'll go ahead and cover it depending on how quickly it goes ahead and gets back to that boil stage. But I'll go ahead and stir my sauce at this point. See how it's going. I do have it on actual low on my burner setting. And it looks like it's all melding together very nicely. So in about 8 to 10 minutes, we will have a spaghetti dinner. Usually at this point in time when I put the noodles in, if I have any kind of a garlic toast or a garlic bread or any kind of a system that I want to add, if we want to add that kind of a starch or the carbs of a bread to the diet, this is when I would have it, have already set the preheat on the oven as I was boiling the water to my garlic bread bagging instructions, or put it usually in between 400 and 425, preheat the oven. So all I have to do is get ready to have the oven pop the garlic bread into the oven, which is obviously just garlic butter bread and a little garlic salt if you wanted to add to that. But other than that, it's basically ready to go, just waiting for the noodles to cook. Go ahead and put on the splatter screen back on again. Put on the steam system. I will go ahead and turn it up just a little bit so I can get a nice simmer back. Put it on about a 1.6 on the burner system. I do have an extra low, actually 1.8 on this particular LG oven. I have the ability to go super low and also super high on this particular burner. So I will go ahead and do a quick stir on the noodles again, just to make sure they seem to be incorporating with the water all the way around them, not sticking together. Don't have any big clumps. So I got a couple, but that's easy enough to break up with the pasta spoon. For the most part. And I'll go ahead and be back with you in about 8 minutes. Okay, about we added about 3 minutes. I went ahead and put the lid back on the noodles. They weren't quite done at the 8-minute mark. I'm going to put the lid back on at the 8-minute mark and cook it for another 3, and we are just about perfect. So we'll go ahead and turn on. I did turn up the temperature a little bit from that medium to a medium high. Go ahead and turn off the burners. Get ready to take off that part right here. Go ahead and lay off this to the side. And be ready to plate. With nummy goodness. There's a couple of different ways that people do this. I'll go ahead and re-stir the sauce a little bit, make sure all that extra side goodness is down into the system. Get it all mixed back in again. And some people like to go ahead and drain their pasta. Some people like to put the pasta directly into the sauce for a few seconds. They can do it several different ways. There are several different opinions on how to do it the right way, in air quotes. But for us, we just go ahead and usually just plate it after a little slight drain. Drain some of the moisture out. Obviously the ones that aren't quite strong enough decide to leap off the pasta fork. I did not end up having to add any sugar to this mix. It actually melted down really nicely. That's about our normal systems. Pop that in there. And then there's a couple different ways that we can do this. I usually add a little bit of the either Parmesan or Romano shredded mixes. You can find these pretty much any grocery store will have something similar to this. That I'll add a little bit on the noodles themselves. Sometimes I'll put butter on them. It just kind of depends on the mood I'm in. Add a little bit to the pasta itself. And then we'll go ahead and use a big old soup ladle. It's a nice thick sauce on top. And we pretty much have just about one bite of spaghetti noodle, one or two at least, and some sauce, and another bite of spaghetti noodle and some sauce. And then go ahead and set that off to the side for a second. Go ahead and put the lid back on top of it so it keeps it nice and warm. And since the burner's off, the spaghetti is left in the pot, we'll go ahead and be just fine. And go ahead and add a little bit more of the Parmesan Romano mix on top. And we're good to go. And then it gets to go to the table. Or TV tray, or whatever we're eating on. And there we go. All finished up.